Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Over This Should podcast, where we ditch the expectations and shoulds that others put on us or we put on ourselves so we can live a life that we truly love. I'm your host, Pamela Meadows, and I am so excited to dive into today's topic with you. Unlearning the shoulds that society sold you. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? That's the power of societal shoulds. Those are the unwritten rules that tell us how we should look, who we should marry, when we should have kids, what we should do for our career. They creep in quietly, and suddenly we're on a path that doesn't feel like our path at all. We're going to dissect those shoulds and help you reclaim your voice, your choices, and ultimately your life. I want to start by sharing a personal story with you. If you've listened to the podcast at all, you might know this story, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But I think it's important because it was the first time I realized I was like living under this pile of shoulds and rules that really weren't even my own. So this is way before COVID. I was already a remote employee, and I really looked at that as a huge gift because here I was able to be home. When my kids got off the school bus, they could just walk down the driveway, come into the house. I would have snacks laid out for them so they could have some snacks. They would do a little bit of their homework, turn on the TV. It was great. So as I was getting ready to end my workday, I was sending my last email. I remember checking my to-do list and checking off what I'd accomplished, starting my to-do list for the next day because that's how I keep myself organized. And as I was writing my to-do list, I looked at the calendar for the next day and noticed that the next night there was a PTA board meeting. And for whatever reason, I just remember feeling very frustrated about it. I couldn't believe it was already a month that had passed. It was another PTA board meeting. And it was what it was because I volunteered for it. I said yes to having a role on the PTA. And I should be grateful for that opportunity, is what I told myself. So I opened my office door and I walked down the hallway, and there's blankets on the floor from where the kids had sat down on the couch with a blanket and then thrown it off. There was backpacks on the floor. I stepped over the backpacks and I continued on to the kitchen where I started making dinner. Literally one of my favorite times today with the kids, always has been. We sat down for dinner, we did our highs and lows, collected all the plates, put them in the sink, and I started washing the dishes. Gratitude's been a big part of my practice, but sometimes I wonder if gratitude could be a little toxic. So I'm washing the dishes, and I remember telling myself it's one more thing to do, but how grateful I should be because I know so many families who don't have the opportunity to sit down with their children. So many families who don't have the opportunity to put a homemade meal on the table. And I'm so lucky, and I should just be grateful. Now, why am I feeling bitter about this? Why am I being resentful? So I finished dishes, I started a load of laundry, and began to walk back down the hallway towards my bedroom so that I could take a shower in peace. My kids were little, so a shower in peace wasn't always a guarantee. Sometimes they'd come knocking on the door. Like they would walk through the kitchen, past their dad, to knock on the door to be like, "Can I have something to drink?" And I'm in the shower. So I was like, "Yes, get yourself milk. You don't need permission to pour yourself water or milk. What's happening here?" I'm in the shower. I was ruminating over the day, all of the things that I needed to do, how I was feeling grumpy about life, how I was feeling overwhelmed and underjoyed. And when I looked down, I noticed my skin was red and starting to like swell up a little bit. I was literally burning myself with this hot water. And I started sobbing and then crying. And so I know I looked like an insane person. And it just really hit me in that moment what a physical representation this was for me. I was literally so distracted by everything that I should be doing, said I would do, committed to, that I was burning myself. Like I was figuratively burning out in my life. And it was in that moment I really started to think about everything I said yes to. And why? Why did I sign up for the PTA? I signed up for the PTA because I think that's what good moms do, and I should do those things because I want to be a good mom. I desperately wanted to be a good mom. I signed up to serve at church because I think that's what Christians should do, is sign up and serve at church because the church asks for those kind of things. And I just really started going through all of the list of things that I said yes to. And it dawned on me that every yes I said to somebody else was a no to myself, was a no to my health, was a no to my peace, because I was keeping myself so busy. Because I thought if I was so busy and so involved in everything, I would be seen as a good mom and a good wife and a good member of society and a good employee. And I was hustling for approval from everybody else at the expense of my health and my well-being. And I recognized then something was wrong, and I had to work on getting towards what good felt like. And it was a long time to get there because really involved a lot of self-discovery. It's hard to understand that I was walking somebody else's path because I hadn't given myself time to even understand what I wanted and what would be desirable for me, not because somebody else wanted me to do it and therefore I should. I went from feeling totally empty and resentful and unfulfilled to slowly filling my own cup up again. And it's one of the reasons my podcast is called Over This Should. I realized that the shoulds that I had been following and the rules that I told myself I needed to obey were pushing me so far down a path that wasn't my own, that every day I woke up and I felt exhausted from the start of the day, not even at the end of the day. I felt like I was wearing clothes that weren't my own and I didn't fit in my skin. And as somebody who is a very Pollyanna positive person, I felt so much negativity and then so much guilt about it. Because who am I to feel resentful, bitter, negative about my life when I had everything I had ever hoped for? A marriage and 3 kids and a job that I was climbing the corporate ladder in, and I had to get out from under that. So I challenge you to take some of the tips and practices that I deployed when I very first started this journey of deconstructing the gilded cage that I built around myself. You know, that gilded cage, the one that is beautiful on the outside and everybody's like, how does she do it all? And wow, your life looks so great, but really, you know, you're just trapped. So to start that, I challenge you to question every should. Every time you say, I should, why are you saying it? Where is the should coming from? I don't care if it's something your family said or your partner said or your kid said or your employer said. Why is it a should? Does the should serve who you want to be? Does the should serve your core values? Listen, it's not going to be an overnight transformation to go from probably a people pleaser to somebody who really listens to their own internal voice. But every time you challenge the should, it leads you one step closer to who you really are. And you deserve that. You deserve to live a life that aligns to your innate passions and dreams and values and skills, not the ones that other people tell you you should be doing. Now, because you know I'm a little bit of a nerd, I want to back up this idea of the shoulds with some science. According to social psychology, societal expectations or social norms can have a profound effect on our self-esteem and overall happiness. We're out living in this world that tells us how we should look and what we should wear and how we should smell and what we should eat, how we should marry, when we should have kids. And we can subconsciously adopt those beliefs and rules around us because we want to fit in, because we want to belong. And in belonging, we avoid judgment. And nobody wants to feel like they're on the outside or that they're being judged. But here's the kicker. The more we conform to societal expectations and pressures that don't align to our core values, the higher our stress levels and the lower our life satisfaction. And one study that probably didn't have to be conducted concluded people who pursued goals aligned with their personal values and dreams and ambitions reported significantly higher levels of satisfaction than those who didn't. I feel like that's a no-brainer. But there's a takeaway here. The more your actions align to your authentic values, you thrive. When they don't, when your actions align to somebody else's expectations, you suffer. It's that simple. And yet we rarely stop to examine it because we are so busy living into the shoulds. So if you want to learn from other people who broke free and really decided to live life on their own terms and define their own idea of success, here's a few. Oprah Winfrey. She grew up in poverty and had external pressures that told her who she should be and how she should look and how she should show up and what she could or could not do. And yet she persisted. She built a media empire by being authentic and tapping into her curiosity and natural storytelling gifts. Okay, how about Richard Branson? We know that name. Everyone said he should follow a typical business path, and yet he rebelled. He dropped out of school and still founded Virgin. He is known for pushing boundaries and going against the norm, and I'd say he's doing okay. Let's talk about legendary artist Frida. She defied the shoulds of her era, how a woman should paint, should dress, should act. Her unique self-expression made her a worldwide icon. So what do these three have in common? They refused to let the shoulds and the societal norms and pressures define them. They stayed true to themselves and stayed on their own path, and in many cases carved a path that was purely theirs. They asked, what do I truly want? Even when society said, that doesn't feel right, or that's impossible, they persisted. So, are you ready to ditch the shoulds? Here are 3 easy steps. Identify one should you've been holding on to. Maybe it's about your career. I should be further ahead than I am now. Or about relationships. I should be married by a certain age. Write it down. Then ask yourself, is this true? Is this true for me? And this is where honesty is key. Does this should reflect your personal values, or is it something you just absorbed from the outside world? Now replace that should with a choice that aligns with your values. If you discover the corporate ladder isn't really for you, maybe you discover an entrepreneur opportunity. Or maybe you set up your workspace differently. Ranks. The point is to rewrite your narrative in a way that feels authentic to you. So let's sum it up. Societal expectations are often outdated or irrelevant. If it doesn't feel right to you, it probably isn't right for you. Questioning the shoulds helps you understand and define your authentic self. Every time you examine a rule or a should and question it, you figure out a little bit more about who you are. You have the power to rewrite your narrative, one story at a time. From there, you can carve a path that truly belongs to you. Not your parents, not your partner, not the pressure from society. Life is too short to be living by somebody else's rules. Choose what's right for you and own it. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Over This Should. If this resonated with you, don't forget to share it with a friend who maybe needs to let other people stop shoulding on their life. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a great review, please. I'll catch you next week. But until then, stay true to yourself.